What's going on, everyone? My name's AJ, and today we have my friend Miles here. You want to introduce yourself?
Hey guys, I'm Miles.
He was grateful enough to share his all-white Air Force Ones he bought, and we're actually going to dye them in coffee today. So do you have anything you want to say to the people before we start this process?
Just really excited and want to see how it turns out, and just really looking forward to the process.
It's a really big trend going on all the social medias, whether it be whether it be TikTok or YouTube Shorts, and Miles watches a lot of YouTube Shorts and got inspired by this idea. I think we did a great job on it, especially what Miles did as far as his planning and everything he did. He's gonna say some of his pros, some of his cons, some of his tips, and if you guys should do this.
Yeah. So for materials, you're gonna need a pair of all-white Nike Air Force Ones, coffee grinds, a metal tub for water, weights to hold down the shoes, and then acetone as well as cotton pads. You can use a metal tub if you're going to be heating up the water over a stovetop. If you're going to be heating the water separately, you can just add hot water to a plastic tub. The acetone and cotton pads are optional just for getting a cleaner experience as far as dipping the shoes. With the weights, it doesn't have to be anything specific. We've seen people use bricks and just anything heavy to just keep the shoes completely submerged underwater. We use 2-pound dumbbells from Target.
You can work out.
Yeah, it's an investment. The first thing you want to do is prep the shoes with the acetone. So you go ahead and take off the laces and the insole of the shoe. You go ahead and try to rub acetone, first of all, across the shoe completely, as well as trying to get some of those crevices in between like the swoosh and then where a lot of the stitching is. And then after that, you go ahead and heat up your water and add the coffee grinds and make sure that's thoroughly mixed together. After the shoes are prepped, you go ahead and submerge them into the coffee with the weights so that they can be completely submerged the entire process. And then you let them soak for a minimum 2 hours. After that, you just take the shoes out and then you clean them out and let them dry. During this process, just make sure that you have everything already prepped and ready to go, because the process can get really messy. So you don't want to end up with coffee water and grinds everywhere. Just know where you're going to put your wet shoes, where you're going to dump your water, kind of have that mapped out so you're not kind of scrambling in the process, because it can get very dirty very fast. If you got windows, open them up. If you don't like coffee, good luck. Just be prepared.
My normal shoe size is an 11. With this shoe, I went to an 11.5 to compensate for any possible shrinkage in the shoe. As far as my pre-dye thoughts, I was really excited to see what the shoe was gonna look like. For me, Air Forces have always been a very typical shoe, something that everybody always had. So the dyeing process was interesting for me because it wasn't something that I see a lot of people with. So it kind of made the shoe a little bit more personal compared to just buying it off the shelf. So very excited for the process. The first time we dipped the shoe, it was about 2 hours and it looked really good. There was just a few white spots that we kind of missed, and so that's gonna be solved just by submerging it in the water for just a little bit longer. The shoe came out really good for the first try. Definitely gonna resubmerge it for a little bit more and kind of get a little bit more full color around some of the edges, but for the most part, very excited with the first dip. One of the pros of dipping the shoes in the coffee would definitely making it a more unique shoe. You will never get the same kind of pattern doing the dip or dyeing with anything. So the way the shoe that came out for me today is different than it would for anybody else. It's very much like my shoe compared to something that anybody can get. I would say a con would be pretty time consuming. We did minimum 2 hours, and so there's just a lot of passive time you have to do, and like we saw, we're gonna be dipping it a little bit more. So if we knew what we knew now when we first started, it would have been maybe like a 3 to 4 hour process, if not overnight. The process of it as a whole is relatively simple. It doesn't take a lot of materials or extra things that you have to get. I would probably say planning, taking your time with the acetone, making sure you're getting an even coat all the way across the shoe. That's not a process you really want to just breeze over. You're just taking your time throughout the whole process. You don't want to skip any steps, evenly coating it consistently. You want to be consistent with application of the acetone. The process wasn't expensive. The most expensive part was the shoe itself. As far as getting all the materials, it was maybe about like $25, $30. And even like you can still get a couple things that are cheaper than what I purchased for. So it could easily be a $20 DIY process. Final thoughts, I love it. I would recommend it for anyone. I'm curious to see what other things you can do with dyeing it. This is obviously coffee grounds. I don't know if you can do this with like just regular dye, but I think it's definitely an interesting process that can really take a very basic shoe and make it a lot more individual to you. I mean, I saw this shoe, I was never really into Air Forces until I saw this idea, and I was like, this process made me buy the Air Forces. Like, I would not have bought them. I wouldn't be wearing them if it wasn't for the whole coffee dipping. So this is something that I really liked, I really wanted to do, so I did it. So I would say if there's something that you really want to try out or can experiment with, just go for it and see how it turns out. The next steps after this, I'm probably going to re-dip the shoe and let it submerge for a little bit more just so I can get a more full color and consistency across the shoe. And after that, I'm gonna just be rocking them.
What's up, guys? It's been about 24 hours since I re-dipped the shoes and they came out great. Originally, after the first 2 hours, the shoes were still a little bit light, which was lighter than what I expected them to be. So after the 24 hours, they did come out how I imagined. There's still a little bit of inconsistency between the two shoes. Like, I think that back leather panel is darker on one shoe than the other, and there's a couple random spots in between the shoes that don't match. Despite them being a little bit inconsistent, I think the whole process of something like this, you should be expecting some inconsistency between the two dyes. I've learned to just embrace the imperfections, and I think that's what makes these shoes more unique compared to just buying a colorway like this off of the shelf. These shoes are a little bit more unique, they're mine, and even if I were to redo the dip, if someone else were to redo them, they would still come out different, and I think that just adds more uniqueness to the shoe. Things I would do differently, maybe the shoelaces did not come out as prominent as I thought they were going to be, and I considered grabbing a fresh white pair to throw on, but I think the darkness of the shoelaces and a little bit almost kind of dingy kind of complements the overall color of the shoe, and again, just kind of embracing those imperfections and making the whole shoe a little bit more unique. There's differences in the back panel, there's a couple random streaks in the shoe, but again, those are things that I don't really mind. Another thing I would probably do differently is I would buy the shoes true to size. I did size up half the size to compensate for any possible shrinking. They didn't really shrink much. However, I can still fit the shoe. It's perfectly fine, so I'm going to keep these. But if you are planning to do something like this in the future, I would say possibly stick true to size because they're not really going to shrink that much. Overall, I'm very thrilled and happy with the results, and I would recommend this process for anybody. I think it's pretty fun, it's interesting, and it really gives you the opportunity to make your shoes your own compared to just having a shoe that everybody else has.
Once again, my name is AJ.
I'm Miles.
Thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys enjoyed this video, feel free to hit the like, subscribe, and even notification bell.
Follow us on twitch.tv/FMO Gaming TTV.
I'll put that in the bio and also right here. So please follow Miles and FML Gaming. They're a great group of people. It's all vibes. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Let go. Peace.
Yeah.